If you are a complete newbie and you are interested in gems and you are passionate about gems but you have zero idea how the industry works or how you can fit into the gem industry, in this video I'm going to break it down for you so you have a perfect understanding how the market works, how the entire trade happens, and which part of the trade can you fit in. Now, if you don't know me, I am Sohail, the founder of Amirah Gems and Fine Jewellery, a jewelry company based in Sri Lanka, the home of sapphires, and I've been in this industry for the last 13 years, sourcing gems, making custom made jewelry, and going through the entire process of hustle bustle of picking the best gems so that I can source those to my customers. Right. So without much ado, let's dive into the subject of how the gem industry works and how you can fit into the entire subject. Point number one, the source, right? Any gem on this earth is formed in a mine, right? So mines are the places where gems are essentially sourced in their purest form in rough shapes, right? So now these come in variety of colors, variety of sizes, variety of hues in different locations on this planet earth. For example, you would find mines in Sri Lanka, you would find mines in Thailand, you would find mines in Burma, you would find mines in Madagascar. All of these regions on Earth produce minerals that can be converted into gems. Now, these mines are usually found by traditional locals who usually follow riverbeds where deposits are collected of colorful traces, and also a bit of traditional experience and luck that locals in that area are able to pick up traces that there is a gem mine somewhere close by. And then they are traditionally mined in couple of methods such as tunnel digging, and then they do mining close to riverbeds where they collect the rough form of the gems. This is called the rough collection. Now, certain areas on earth or certain areas where gems are found have rich sources where good material is always collected. Now, depending on the region, of course, some places will give you good material and some places will give you not such great material, and some famous areas in this entire gem collecting mine collecting areas have depleted, whereas in countries like Sri Lanka there's always a new area where gem minerals are found, right? So this is mostly locals who are the deep down people who carry this skill generation by generation, and they identify that okay, there's a mine close by, and then there's a slight digging that happens in the start just to identify okay, is there any potential here or not, and if they find potential, then further digging processes are done to collect these rough gemstones in their purest form. Now, once the rough is collected, this is where the operation really results in the second phase, which is called the cutting and polishing phase, right? So once a miner finds rough, they take it to lapidaries who cut these gemstones. Right now, this is where traditionally a gemstone is formed, and it will basically depend on this point if it's going to be really worthwhile or not. Right. So once the rough is formed, the second part or the second point in the entire explanation is cutting and polishing. Right. So once these rough gemstones are collected to miners, they basically determine and see if the rough can be heated or not heated. Now, heated and unheated is a different subject altogether, but in general essence, all you need to know is once a miner finds a rough gemstone, he basically determines if this rough is clear, does it have impurities, does it have less color, or does it have more color. Depending on his observation, what he's going to do next is he's going to take it to the cutter, and he is going to decide along with the cutter and the miner, are we going to heat treat this or are we not going to heat treat this. This is why it signifies the factor if this gemstone is going to be heat treated or not. Now, supposing the gemstone or the rough they find is very clear and doesn't have defaults and the formation is really good, they don't really have to heat this gemstone. What they can do is they can essentially cut it and polish it as it is, and this will take the form of a natural gemstone. But since they supposing they find the rough form and it has a bit of inclusions, it has a bit of impurities, the color is not great, they can decide to heat treat this gemstone so that the color enhances and the impurity reduces, right? So now you should have an idea. Okay, first there is a mine that finds or gets all these deposits of gems, and then miners dig them and find the rough form. Then after the rough form is found, they take it to lapidaries which cut and polish them, where they initially come out with the process of the decision making if they're going to heat this rough or not heat this rough sapphire or the gemstone. It can be various varieties. It can be sapphires, or it can be spinels, or it can be semi precious, or whatever the rough form is. This is where they will decide in the rough stage if they're going to heat or not, which will definitely impact the value later on, right? Once the rough is identified, and once the lapidary part is done, and once the gemstone is cut and polished, then comes the number three, the third point of the entire conversation, which is the market. Now, this is where a general person would be interested if he really wants to enter the industry, right? Market is where you source the gem stone for its cheapest price that is possible. Now, markets around the world have traditional histories. Like Thailand has its own history, but Sri Lanka has two famous markets, which is the Ratnapura market and the Berwala market. Just to give you an example of Berwala market, every week the market operates twice a week, which is on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and over thousands of gem dealers with their pure form, no carpets, nothing great, just holding gem packets and zippy packets. They come and they start showing gemstones to each other at its uh, at its fair value, not rather fair value, but at a price that they would expect it to sell it, and traders negotiate and trade them just by swapping hands. This is the most raw form. Now, if you want to enter the industry, what you need to understand is this is where everything starts. From this point, so there is the basic market entry where you get to source the cheapest of gemstones. From this, either you decide to be a trader, a wholesaler, a retailer, or online jewelry store, or you sell it to a collector. So if example a general person wants to enter the trade, the best place for him to buy the gemstone is going to be the market, right? Not from someone who's already sourcing from the market and then coming and selling to you, who then which you can sell it to someone else. At this point, you're already creating a middleman who has access to the market. So rather than that, you should be going to the market in order to buying the gemstones at its cheapest price. And when you go to the market, one thing is very important, that you need to have knowledge and experience so that you get to buy it at its fair value, because it's very common in the markets for people to overcharge or overprice, or to quote at a very absurd value in the start, especially if you don't know the subject, right? So advice wise, get into the market first if you want to get into the trade. Point number two, once you have access to these markets, then you can decide, okay, now that I'm getting the stone at its cheapest price, what's my next step, right? So the next step could be, you can take a couple of approaches. One, you can become a broker. That means you take stones from one person who's selling it and go show to another person in a different location. This is the key point. Like if you are sourcing from Sri Lanka, you should have a trace back to your country where you can sell it to someone else who's already doing a gem business, where you bring him goods and you show it to him, where you can keep a small margin of 20 to 30% and sell it to him. Or traditionally, the next thing you can do is, if you have access to markets, you can then go and sell it to jewelry stores, right? So this way you're not cutting, you're becoming the middleman from the mine to a retailer. Or else you can take it from a mine and trade it with another trader in a different geographical location, right? So this is where you need to understand these are the gaps that are available in the market in order for you to start trading. So once you figure that out, the once you figure out the fact that, okay, you take it from the mine, and if you're going to do a wholesale approach and sell it to other brokers, then you're going to keep only about 15 to 30% of margin. If you plan to sell to retailers, then you can score a bit more than 15 to 20%, where you can target 30 to 40%. But ideal switch is you source from the market and then you go to people who have retail fronts that can buy from you. This model will give you business on a rotation method, as long as you know how to find worth gemstones and good gemstones. So now that you have covered the mines, the labs, and the market, you need to position yourself in a way that either you sell to traders, or if you sell to retailers, or if you are at a level above that, you can always go for collectors, which means they will buy the best of the best stones, right? Now, a couple of pointers we need to discuss. If you are new and you have zero idea on trading, the first thing you should really be doing is, though you understand the markets, is understanding and learning how to see gems and increasing your knowledge, right? Because this will be the determining factor on how good your trading game can be, right? So understand the general operation, where how the entire trade happens. This is the gap. End of the day, basically gems is a trading business, right? So you buy and you sell. The game is, where can you buy the cheapest and where can you sell the highest. And in order for you to do that, you need to understand and learn the subject in a much uh, accurate manner, so that you become better at it. And the best way to do this is by experience. So you need to keep looking at gems more often and in a repetitive manner, and you have to have access to these markets where you can go and see gems on a daily basis, right? So if you're planning to start the business, then it's ideal that you come into one of these countries like Thailand and Sri Lanka and spend some time in markets, maybe 2 3 months, so you get the touch and feel, and you become better at understanding these gemstones and how they actually bought into the market and what kind of price points they are sold. For more information like per carat prices or per stone prices, it all varies, and in this channel I will keep educating as much as I can on how to buy right and what kind of prices you should buy for when it comes to gems, right? So this is basic understanding on how it happens. But the most uh, key point I could tell you is number one is to learn the subject, and you can always use professional tools or professional agencies like GIA that do educating. And there are so many gem courses around the world, depending on your geographical area, that they give you basic information and knowledge, right? So this is basically introduction on the video of how the market operates and how you can fit in, just to get a general idea. Follow me for more and subscribe in this channel. The entire idea is to educate people on gems, jewelry, and how to build a business around it. You can always reach out to me for custom jewelry on sohailthejeweler.com. And save the video, like the video, give me a subscribe, and if you have any questions, give me a comment below, and I will make sure to reply to each one of you to the best of my capabilities. That's it for today, and I will be posting more videos, so follow along.